ultimately for leading a life of happiness and enriched life. Aval adayin chasera lo hadarga hashniya. But he's still missing the second level. What is the second level? Even though he believes that everything is from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, adayin yecholos lihiyos lo she'ilos uta'anos al Hashem. And I both say, I could believe that everything is from God, but that doesn't mean that I don't have complaints against the Ribono Shel Olam. Lama Hashem asali azeh. Okay, I believe it's from God. I will say sometimes knowing that it's from God for some people makes it worse. If it's random or stuff just happens, no, okay, you can't control the cosmic forces. But if HaKadosh Baruch Hu did this, why did HaKadosh Baruch Hu do this for me? Lo magia li, I don't deserve this. Ani adam tov, I'm a good person. Lama ni tzarach lispol, why do I have to suffer? Halo ploni amoni yoser rasha mimeni. So and so is a bigger rasha than me. But lama hulo sova, why doesn't he suffer? Va'od kahina v'kahina she'elos. And I will say there are many other questions like this. Tlunos, vitarumos, mukaros, viyiduos. So I will say the first level of Emunah, which we are now, I was going to say we're now completing. I don't mean it like that. We're not completing. Meaning we're now finishing to learn about. So it just teaches me this idea that everything is from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Everything is from the Ribono Shel Olam. But there's another element. Even if I accept everything is from God, there's a piece of me that has difficulty accepting difficult events. That is difficulty accepting turbulent or tragic events and still leave me wondering, why me? These type of thoughts as to the why me, I don't deserve this. It's important to understand that this represents a deficiency in Emunah. Because now, if a person believes that everything is from the Ribono Shel Olam, as we have been learning about, the corollary to that is that everything is for good. The corollary is that Hakol Tova. Ki Hashem Yisbarach Hu Tov. For HaKadosh Baruch Hu is good. Ve'ein ra yotzeh mimenu. And there is nothing bad that comes from the Ribono Shel Olam. Ve'i efshar sha'adam yomar ani ma'amin ba'Hashem. Ubo zmanis yachshov shema sha'over alav zera. So this is an incredible yusod. If a person believes that everything is from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, then by definition one must believe that Hakol Tova, that all is good. For one simple reason, that which is Ra does not emanate from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I will say that doesn't mean that which is pain. There are plenty of painful things. There's between pain and Ra. We often associate them as the same thing. If something is painful, it's good. It's good. If something is pleasurable, if something is painful, it's bad. If something is pleasurable, it's good. And I will say we know that relationship is not necessarily true. Again, you can see that on both ways. There are plenty of things that are pleasurable, but they're not good. Consuming massive amounts of alcohol at regular intervals may be pleasurable, but it's certainly not good, right? There may be certain illicit relationships that are pleasurable, but they're not good. Conversely, I will say, those things that are difficult or those things that are painful are not bad. And a person has to believe that. If I believe that everything comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, then by definition I accept the fact that Hakol L'Tova, for again, nothing ra, we'll discuss this, that ultimately again from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, negative things do not come about. Difficult things, painful things, but not ra. He goes on. He says, because they all say, based on our emunah, we know that everything that HaKadosh Baruch, if it comes from God, it's good. If it comes from God, it's good. Therefore, by definition, again, once I believe that everything is from the Ribono Shel Olam, I have to believe that some way, somehow, all is good. Lachin, therefore, in order to be able to reach the level of true emunah, we have to begin work on the next level. What's the next level? Page Pei section base Hakol L'Tova. We'll say, so now that we've spent a significant amount of time really working on the concept that everything is from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, everything, Everything, right? The things that happen to us, quote unquote, in a natural way, the things that other people do to us, and even the mistakes we ourselves make. All of that is from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Then I will say the next step is Hakol Tova. Listen to this. Hadar Gashniya hi Emunah Shakol Tova. We'll say the second level of Emunah that we are not going to work on is the belief that everything is for good. Hainu sheyamin shekoma shekore lo hu l'tovaso. I have to believe that all that occurs to me is for my good. Ki af api shenira lo shezel ra'aso. Even though Rabbi say it looks just the opposite, even though it looks like that which is occurring to me is negative, I have to believe that Hakol, everything is l'tova. The harbe mikrim nitan liros beber ketzad davar shenira kara miskala kitova. I will say, in many situations in life, it's clear. So I'll say, so in many situations in life, it's clear that that which I thought is negative is good. You know, he says, Kol echad yeshlo is bonus. I will say we've all have had situations like this where something at first looked bad, maybe even terrible, but then it turned out we saw the tova. L'dugma. So I'll say he gives a very extreme example. Adam mema'ar la'avoda u'magia latachanat ha'autobus b'diuk kasher autobus omid latzis l'darko. Person is going to work, and what happens? I show up at the bus, mamish, right at the moment that the bus is about to leave. Hanag sover asadalas belfanav. Right, the driver shut the door in my face. Misalim minikishosav vinosea. No matter how much I'm pounding on that door, and of course asking nicely, may I please enter? Right. Nevertheless, again, the driver's not paying any attention to me. Kamuvan. So we'll say, so most people are not able to do kabal bi'ava. I can't really accept lovingly that which just occurred to me. So first of all, again, there's the disrespect of the driver. And I will say there's the essence also, there's the issue that I've been made late, right? Meaning, again, I'm going to be late now. Who rata la'alos elav. Shurasa haya mu'ura betuna katlonis. Who mekabalas hadvarim kataska. So this is an extreme example. When I see that the bus, was involved in a fatal accident, okay, then I realize, okay, that which I thought was so terrible, that which I thought was so catastrophic, that which I thought was so raw, at the end of the day, there was an incredible tova. I literally give thanks to HaKadosh Baruch Hu with heartfelt tears that God saved me. And ultimately, again, I give an incredible bracha to the driver. Who beforehand, again, in my mind, was the biggest Russia. Kamuvan. Well, at the time of the Nisayon, it's difficult for time of the test. It's difficult for a person to know what's going to be afterwards. I don't know the future. So we'll say, therefore, it's only natural and normal that we get angry when our plans are sabotaged. When my life doesn't go according to plan, it's easy to get angry. And we'll say that's because I live one time frame or one frame of time at a time. So I don't know what the future is. So from here and now, I had a plan. The plan was foiled, or the plan was sabotaged, or the plan was undermined, or the plan was just destroyed again. Not very much, just through life. I'm upset. That angers me because it's not going according to what I want. They will say that Ribono Shel Olam knows the future, watches over man at all times. Shomer Pesayim Hashem. Ribono Shel Olam watches over everyone, even the simple ones. Va'af im lo ashum tu'una lo-autobus. Yesh sivos nistaros rabos. Madua zelatova shlo ala autobus. And I will say, even if Chas v'Shalom there's no accident on the bus, it doesn't change the reality that somehow there's a tova that I did not get on that bus. Somehow, maybe I'll never even know the reason. Maybe I'll never even know the why. Sibos sherak habori is baruch yodeh. Reasons Rabbi said that only HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows. Va'al ha'adam ha'amin shezel tova. And it is up to a person to try to understand that this is for the best. V'lo lahashim es hanahag, not to blame the driver, or es misha ikev also, or the person who caused me to be late to begin with, or es atzmo, or myself. So we'll stop over here for today. But I stand in the Mechaber is introducing us now to this next level of Amunah. And if in the first level we've established that all is from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the next level I will say is accepting the fact that all is for good. Hakol Litova. Hakol Litova. Yes, there are times in life where it's obviously recognizable, but there are many other times in life when it is not. And it is our sacred avodah to be able to believe that all is Litova, even if I can't see that all is Litova. All right, we'll stop here. All right, we'll say good morning. Let's begin. Today's daf is Kuf Lamed Ches 138. We are picking up on Kuf Lamed Zayin Lamed Beis 137b, and we're picking up 4 lines up from the bottom. Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Shmuel. We'll say our shir this morning is dedicated by Avi Friend in memory of his uncle's mother, Chaya Hendel Bas Aryeh Leib. We hope that in the merit of our Talmud Torah, the Neshama has an aliyah. Thank you for the sponsorship. And by Baruch Fischel and Sonia Kozlavsky, in honor of the birth of a son, to Yael and David Issever, and to their proud grandparents, Saeed and Sima Haken. Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov. And of course, the Baba, of course, Elisheva Engel as well. Mazel Tov. Mazel Tov to all the grandparents. Amen. All right, so let's begin. So Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Shmuel. We'll say incredible. Today it's really, really good Gemara. Incredible Gemara. So Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Shmuel. Hakosev nechasav la'achar. So we'll say, watch this. I give over my property. I write my property to someone. And what happens? Amar Allah. Listen to such an interesting case. I'm writing over my property. I'm conveying my property to Reuven. And Reuven says, I don't want it. I don't want it. Whatever. I don't want it. So Ef Shibahan. So what's the halacha? Was like, Kana. He acquires it nevertheless. Va'afilu omed b'tzavach. Right? He acquires it, and even if he's jumping up and down and screaming out, I don't want it, he still acquires. So we'll say that is the position of Shmuel. Rabbi Yochanan says, Lo kana. Rabbi Yochanan says, no, he does not. If the guy says he doesn't want it, so he doesn't acquire it. Somebody can't acquire something, at least in terms of property, against his will. Rabbi Abba says, the truth is, Shmuel and Rabbi Yochanan are not arguing. How so? We'll say, top of Kof Lameches. Kan b'tzavach meikara, kan b'shosek meikara ulubasov tzavach. So we'll say, this is actually quite interesting. The Gemara says, this case is a reference to the case of Rabbi Yochanan. When do we say that a person doesn't acquire the gift, that a person doesn't acquire the conveyance? That's when he objects to its acquisition from the beginning. So if I say, Reuven, I'm being machnis something to you, and Reuven says no, so from the beginning, again, he lodges the value, he explicitly says that he does not want it, so he does not acquire it. Kan b'shosek mikar lo b'sof tzavach. I will say, Shmuel's case is where what? Where he was quiet in the beginning and ultimately, again, only objects afterwards. So both saying a case like that where he was quiet in the beginning and only objects afterwards, then what? Then the fact that he was quiet at the beginning means he accepted the gift. The fact that he then objects afterwards is halachically inconsequential. Look at the Rashbam. Kan b'shasakol b'sof tzavach. So he writes, Kana kevan de kibel ashtar b'shtika nisratz l'zakos matana. Ome'achar shezaka ein moil klum lahotzi mireshuso masha amar ef shtiva matana zu ashiyitne balosh matana lachin or ashiyitkim. So both like. So I want to be clear. So therefore, the Gemara suggesting is the following: I'm conveying something to Reuven, and from the beginning, Reuven says, from the beginning when the shtar is conveyed to him and the property is conveyed to him, he says, I don't want it. Okay. So a person has a right to say they don't want a gift, they don't want the conveyance, they don't want an acquisition. That's absolutely the right. But the moment that he is quiet, is silent, and accepts it, then what? Then the Lamaise, it becomes his. It becomes his. When he subsequently says, I don't want this gift, Shabbos said, a statement like that is meaningful. You already own it. Now, of course, there are ways to divest yourself of ownership. You could gift it to someone else. You can make it hefker, but by simply stating, I don't want the gift, that is no longer a consequential statement. So the Gemara goes back to Amar Nachman bar Yitzchak, Zika lo, al yedei achar b'shasak, ulebasof tzavach. Well, so what about the following case? I want to convey property to Ruvain, so I convey it to Ruvain through Shimon. Look at the Rashbam for just a moment. Zika lo al yedei achar b'fanav. Busha says, so the case over here is where I'm going ahead and conveying property to Ruvain. I'm conveying property to Ruvain, but I'm doing it through Shimon. But all of this is taking place in the presence of Ruvain. So look, finish that Rashbam. So once I see here this case, what's happening over here is the following. What's happening over here is that Lamaisa, I'm conveying the property to Ruvain through Shimon. So I go ahead and I do the kinyan, or I write the shtar, and Shimon's right, Ruvain's right there, he says nothing. At the time when Shimon gives over the shtar to Ruvain, that's when Ruvain begins to object and he says, I don't want it. It's at the time that the kinyan was made on his behalf, he said nothing and he was present. But yet at the time, ultimately what? When the shtar is handed over to him, he begins to object. So what happens there? So the Gemara suggests, Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak suggests, we have now entered into the machlokes, ultimately again, Rav Shimon Gamliel and the Rabbanan, as to whether or not a person acquires under these circumstances. This Tanya, because also we learned in the Brayso, Hakosev nechasav la'achar v'hayu bahen avadim. We will say if a person went ahead and wrote over his property to another, and included in that estate were avadim, right? There were slaves that were part of that estate. And the recipient said, I do not want these slaves. So the Gemara says, if the second master, i.e. the person who was acquiring the gift or acquiring the property, was a Kohen, ultimately, again, the slaves are permitted to truma. And a word of background about this, the halacha is that a slave that belongs to a Kohen gets to eat truma. Anyone who's a miknas kaspo, anyone who's the property of the Kohen, ultimately consumes truma as well. So what's happening in this case over here? I am conveying my property through a shtar to Ruvain. And what happens? And Ruvain says, I don't want them. They're avadim as part of the estate. Ruvain says, I don't want them. So the Gemara says, or the Rabbanan say over here, that if Ruvain is a Kohen, certain slaves eat truma, which also sounds like, even though Ruvain just said what? He doesn't want the slaves, nevertheless they become his. V'haraya, they consume truma. But take a look at the Rashbam for just a moment. The Rashbam says, "V'hayu ban avadim, u'mitoch kach tzavach she'en rotza lazon avadim." So we'll say in this case over here, the reason Ruvain doesn't want the gift is because he doesn't want the slaves. Why doesn't he want the slaves? Because he doesn't want the responsibility ultimately to support them. So the Rashbam goes on. Rabban Sheni Mekal Tara Ochlu Mitruma. The Rashbam says, Machmas Hasheni Devadai Kana. So therefore, again, we seem to be saying over here that even though the intended recipient lodges his complaint and says, I don't want it, he nevertheless acquires it. Those avadim are going to eat truma. Rav Shimon Gamliel Omer, Kevan Shamar Hala, Ef Shibahen, Kavar Zachu Bahen Yarshin. Rav Shimon Gamliel on the other hand says, no. Once Reuven says, I don't want it, then what? Then Lamais again, he doesn't get it. So once he says, I don't want it, then ultimately he does not acquire it. What's the lashon over here is Kavar Zachu Bahen Yarshin. Ultimately, he calls it the inheritors of the one who gave him the gift will get back the gift. I will say what that means essentially is the gift goes back to its original owner. So if the original owner is alive, he gets it. If the original owner is dead, then ultimately it will go to his descendants, to his inheritors. So this is the machlokis over here, seemingly between the Rabbanan and Rav Shimon Gamliel. It appears, that the Rabbanan are saying that you acquire the gift no matter what, and therefore even though Reuben in this case is saying, I don't want the avadim, he still acquires them. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel seems to be saying, no, if somebody says they don't want the gift, then what? Then what? They don't acquire the gift. To which the Gemara says, Va'abinan ba, and we ask about this case, the Tanakama, afilu omeid v'tzavach. So ultimately, again, could it be that according to the Tanakama, could it be that the Tanakama actually holds that if I want to convey property to Reuven, and Reuven goes ahead and is jumping up and down and yelling, I don't want it, I don't want it, I don't want it. Is it actually possible to say that Lamaisi is still going to acquire it? In other words, can you convey something? So both say, we have examples of conveying something to someone against their will, right? What's the paradigmatic example of that? Get, right? But both say, but that's an anomaly, right? That's much more a halachic exception than a rule. Under normal circumstances, again, a person needs das to acquire something. So you're actually telling me over here that if I want to convey property to Reuven, and Reuven doesn't want it, that he acquires it nevertheless, to which the Gemara says, so Amar Rava v'tim Rabbi Yochanan, b'tzavach meikaro. So we'll say, listen to this. So the Gemara says the following. We'll split it essentially into three different categories. B'tzavach meikaro. If from the beginning, when I'm trying to convey this gift to Reuven, so Reuven says, I don't want it. I don't want it. Tikuli amalo pligi delo kani. Everyone agrees that what you're both saying. If you say from the beginning you don't want it, then what? You don't acquire it. You don't acquire it. Shasak ulvasof tzavach. They both say, on the other hand, if Reuven would accept the gift and then afterwards he objects, saying, I don't want this gift, everyone agrees that what? He acquires it. Why? Because Lamaisa, his shtika, his silence at the time of the acquisition indicates that he's acquired it. The fact that now he doesn't want it, that's fine. He could divest himself of it, but he won't be able to accomplish that just by saying, I don't want the gift. He'll either have to gift it to someone else or he'll have to use a lashon of hefker. So keep the Yirabo say, where does the machlokes come up? Oh, here we go. Where does the machlokes come up? The machlokes case ultimately comes up in the following situation, where I'm conveying property to Reuven, but I'm not conveying it directly to Reuven, conveying it instead to Shimon. But Reuven is present. So Shimon is being Makabel Kinyan on behalf of Reuven. Reuven sees everything that is occurring here, and he is silent. Yet when it comes time for Shimon to convey over the shtar of ownership, to convey over the shtar to Reuven, that's when Reuven objects. So the shaila is, we have his silence at the time of the kinyan, but yet his objection at the time of the actual conveyance of the shtar. So how do we interpret that? Tanakama savar midishas sekaninhu. So Tanakama says, listen, Reuven, you were there b'shas kinyan, right? You were there at the time of the actual acquisition, and you were quiet. So therefore, because you were quiet, ultimately, again, you go ahead and you acquire the property. I v'haydikat savach nahadirhu. And I will say the fact that then what happens? Reuven goes ahead and then objects to the acquisition afterwards. So he's trying to retract. He's trying to retract. I will say, so now he doesn't want it. But that's nice that now you don't want it. But what? You've acquired it already. In other words, the fact that you were silent means it's yours. Now you've changed your mind. That's fine. You're entitled to change your mind and divest yourself of the property, but by saying you don't want it does not divest yourself of the property. Either gift it away or make it hefker, but by simply saying Yev Shimat Hanazu, that's not enough. So also according to the Rabbanon, his silence at the time of the kinyan indicates his acquiescence to the transaction, which means now the transaction is binding. The fact that he then says later on, I don't want it, means he changed his mind, which he's entitled to. Also, there's not a problem with that. But Lamais, again, then you just have to go through the proper channels to divest yourself of this asset. But Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says no. Hochiach sofo al tchilaso. Rabbi said ultimately, again, says amazing. He says the final objection, right, the end objection, sheds light on his initial silence. In other words, when he objects at the end, we interpret that to mean what? That he really never wanted it. He actually never wanted it. So Gemara says, so one second, what's the Avi's Kasha? If you never wanted it, then what? Why did you say something in the beginning? And why didn't he object until now? What's the point of complaining before the shtar reaches my hand? So what Reuven is saying is, listen, I am a direct party in this transaction, but Lamai said the time will come for me to lodge my complaint. When will that occur? Reuven figured that occurs when Shimon hands over to the shtar to me. But before, again, I am an active participant, so to speak, in this transaction, so there's absolutely no need for me to go ahead and lodge my official complaint. Okay, so we'll say, so just interestingly enough, leaving aside this third party case, because this third party case is a bit more complicated. So the Psak Halacha here is clearly straightforward. The Psak Halacha here is Hamakabas is in Shulchan Aruch, this is Simon Reish Mem Hey Sef Yud. Hamakabas Hamatana v'Zachaba. A person acquires a matana. V'achar Sheva Liyodo Hu Shosek v'Chazar Ba v'Amar Any Rod Sebo or Any Makabla Harehi B'Teila or Mum Zeni Liba. Lo Amar Klom le'inyan shetaxer lebailim, ela harehi hefker b'chalakodim zachar. I will say, Shulchan Aruch gives an interesting twist. The interesting twist is the following: that if you receive a gift and you are silent at the time, ultimately again, of the acquisition, then what? Then it's yours. Then it's yours. You've acquired it. So if you subsequently go ahead and say, I don't accept it, it's bottle, right? I don't want it. So we'll say, so that doesn't cause the gift to return back to the original owner, but according to the Shulchan Aruch, you know what those Lashonos do, in fact, affect hefker. So Psak of the Shulchan Aruch is the gift is yours, but now that you clearly express that you don't want it anymore, you've effectively made the gift hefker. Okay, Tanabam. Shchimira, we'll say another interesting case. Shchimira Sha'amar, Tenu Masayim Zuz Laploni. Listen to this. Ushlosh Meos Laploni. So we'll say so again, bless you. Let's say Shchimira says, give 200 zuz, bless you, 200 zuz to Shimon, to Reuven, 300 zuz to Shimon, 400 zuz to Levi. So we'll say, so what are we saying? Ein omrim kalakodim bishtar zocha. So we'll say, so we don't view those gifts as successive gifts. Rather, we view them as simultaneous gifts. Now, what does that mean? Take a look at the Rashbam for just a moment. The Rashbam says, Shamar tnu masayim zuz, ukigon de lo shir acharein klum. The shir media shel chalaklam afagav the mis. I actually skipped it. Go back up on Rashi. I'm sorry. Rabban shchimira lahachi nacha shchimira debedidei ikale fluge ben heichad damar el acharav leploni leheichad lo amar mishum deragel lechalikon lechasim b'dimar zeh. Also listen to this. The case over here is the following. When a Shchimira says, give 200 to Reuven, 300 to Shimon, 400 to Levi, we'll say we don't view that as successive gifts. Rather, we view it as a simultaneous gift. You're going to see the distinction between them in just a moment. So we'll say, what does that mean? Ideally, the Shchimira would like to be able to say what? B'dibur echad. He'd like to be able to say 200 to Reuven, 300 to Shimon, 400 to Levi. But only the Ribbon Shalom could speak b'dibur echad. Man has to make successive statements. But we view those successive statements as a simultaneous gift. What's the ramification of that? Therefore, lefichach yatsa alav shtarchov gova mikula. Oh, now we'll say, therefore, if let's say after the Shchimira dies and there's a creditor who comes to collect from these individuals. So we'll say, who does he collect from? He collects from all of them, obviously proportionally. So we'll say, what's the chap over here? The chap over here is, as we're going to see in just a moment, if you make successive gifts, we'll see how that works. When you make simultaneous gifts, then all of them are achroi, all of them are responsible, or I should say, all of their gifts are encumbered by any previously existing debts. Therefore, when the Baal Chov surfaces to collect his debt, he collects proportionally from each of these individuals. Take a look at the Rashbam. Gova Mikulan. Let's say it's about 4 lines from before it gets wide. Sharik Kulam Niskavin Litin Biachad. Because the Shchimira's intent was to give to all of these individuals simultaneously. Ela She'in Adam Yachol Lahotzi Shnei Dvarim Ke'echad. But I will say, rather, what's the chap? One person can't say multiple things simultaneously. Ukigon shalosh shasak bein sayim. Da'inu nimlach. Come on. So we'll say, now we'll see later on, by the way, this is also provided that the Shchimira did not pause too much in between each of these statements. Because we're going to see that sometimes if there's too much of a pause in between the statements, how do we interpret that? We interpret that as a change of heart, as he's changing his mind. But leaving that aside, he's the we'll say now the creditor accepts from each of them proportionally, in proportion with their gift. He going in Bob Balchol literal fine. So there's just goes on. So we'll say, so therefore again, if he goes ahead and he says 200 to this one, 300 to this one, 400 to this one, we view that as a simultaneous gift. The difference is a person can't say multiple things. Therefore, when the creditor comes along, he collects them all of them proportionally. So the Gemara says, Aval, however, Amar Tnumasayim Zuz Leploni, the Acharav Leploni, the Acharav Leploni. But I will say, watch this. If at the end of the day, what happens? You go ahead and you have a person say, right? The Shemira says, give 200 zuz to Reuven, and after that, give 300 zuz to Shimon, and after that, give 400 zuz to Levi. Then I will say, what is he doing? He's making successive gifts. These are no longer simultaneous gifts. These are successive gifts. I will say, what happens with successive gifts? So the Gemara says, Omrim kala kodem b'shtar zacha. I will say, what does this mean? The fichach yatalav shtarchov. Therefore, I will say, if after Shchibina dies, the creditors come along to collect from the estate, gova mina achara. I will say, remember again, we've learned this before. When it comes, if let's say all of the estate property has been dispersed, I will say, so how does a creditor know who to go after? How does he know who to go after? So the answer is, he goes after the last person to receive property from the estate. In other words, it's like I was going to say like LIFO, like last in first out, but it's really like last out, last out, whatever property goes in and gets taken last, ultimately again is first in line, which makes it so because if you think about it again, they view it as the following: as an estate is dispersed, so any pre-existing encumbrances are transferred to different properties. So let's say, for example, for argument's sake, Reuven has the Shchimera has 3 different parcels of land, for argument's sake. So let's say there's one creditor. So what happens? The creditor's lien originally is on all of them. Then what happens? He gives away the first piece, it's transferred to the last 2. He gives away the second piece, it's transferred to the last 1. So therefore, again, that's why when collecting the debts, we look at the last piece of property out, because that was the last drain, and we work our way up. Therefore, I will say in a case like this, really interesting, where the Shchimera says 200 to Reuven, the Acharav, and afterwards 300 to Shimon, the Acharav, and afterwards 400 to Levi. So I will say ultimately, again, when the creditor comes to collect, he's going to go after Levi first. Because Levi had received the last remaining piece of estate property. Therefore, again, he had the last remaining lien. Because he had the last remaining lien, the creditor goes after him first. So I'll say ultimately again, so then the creditor has his right to work up the line. So therefore, again, if for some reason Levi doesn't have the asset anymore, then go with Mishalafanav. Then the creditor goes after Shimon. If Shimon doesn't have it, go with Mishalafanav. Then ultimately again, Mishalafnepanav. Then ultimately again, the creditor will go back to Shimon, to Reuven. Tarabana. What's the next case? Shchimir Ashamar. Tnumasayim Zuz Leploni B'ni B'chori Karoila. What's another fascinating case? Shchimir says, give 200 zuz to my firstborn son, Karoilo, as is befitting him. So I say, so what's the obvious shayla over here? So the Gemara says, Notlon. So obviously he gets the 200 zuz. V'notal as b'chorasa. Here's what's interesting. We do not view that gift in lieu of the double portion. Let's say for argument's sake that the 200 zuz is, let's say for argument's sake, more than the pishnaim of the bechar. Let's say it's worth more than the double portion of the bechar. So I'll say, so the Shchimera is saying, give 200 zuz to my firstborn son, Karoilo, as is befitting him. So the Gemara says, Notlon, he gets the 200 zuz, the nota as becharasa, and he also gets his pishnayim. In other words, we do not view that the father is giving that gift to his firstborn son in lieu of his pishnayim. However, im amar bebecharasa, I will say, if the Shchimera says, give 200 zuz to my firstborn son, bibicharasal, for his firstborn right, then yado al ha'elyona. The firstborn, literally, he has the upper hand, which means firstborn has a choice. What's his choice? Rata notlon. If he wants, he can take the 200 zuz. Rata notl bicharasa. If he wants, he can take his pishnayim. In other words, he has the right to choose between which gift he wants. But what? he doesn't get both, because it's clear that the father intended that this gift satisfied the Bechora obligation. So either take the 200 zuz, which is worth more than your pishnayim, or take your pishnayim, but not both. Similarly, let's say a man on his deathbed and he says, give 200 zuz to my wife as is befitting her. So we'll say, what's the halacha? Note lasan, she takes the 200 zuz, but she also gets her ksuva. She gets both. Because we understand that say this statement is not an either or, but rather, again, he's giving her an additional gift. However, if he says, give 200 zuz to my wife for her ksuva, then Rabbi said, then she has a choice. She has a choice. What's her choice? Ratza not lasan. Ratza not ksuvasan. Then Rabbi said she has a choice. Her choice is that what? She can either go ahead and take the 200 zuz, or she can go ahead and take the ksuva. We'll say that is her choice to make. We'll say next case. We'll say, so you see all of these cases where we understand that depending on how he phrases it, the shchimira is either giving an additional gift, or perhaps the shchimira is giving an option for the payout, but you don't get both. Everything we'll say, the incredible muster in all of these cases, is how, again, thank you, everything just is dependent on how you phrase it. Everything is dependent ultimately, again, on the words that you use. Next case, I said, this is amazing.
And if he didn't say Karoila?
I'm sorry?
If he didn't say Karoila?
So we didn't say, so it's not, Karoila is not the operative phrase. What's really is Biksuvasa. If you left off the Karoila, it doesn't change anything. We still just view that as a gift. A gift. Give her 200 zuz. Give her 200 zuz. The issue over here is, does he say bibichoraso or does he say biksuvasa? Then we understand that the gift is an either or. Shemira, shchimira. We'll say second line. Days. Let's listen to this. Shchimira says, give 200 zuz to so and so. Bal chovi karo'ela. So this is an interesting case. Shemira says, give 200 zuz to my creditor as is befitting him. So the Gemara says, note lan, v'note les chovo. Ultimately, the creditor, we'll say, does what? He gets the 200 zuz, and what else does he get? He gets 200 zuz as a gift, and he also gets repayment for his debt. So the Gemara says, however, bichovo, vim amar bichovo, note lan bichovo. But l'maisa, again, if the Shchimera says, give my creditor 200 zuz for my debt, then what? The note lan bichovo. Then ultimately, we'll say the creditor doesn't have the right to go ahead and get a gift and also collect the debt. Rather, he just collects the debt. The Gemara says, Mishum da amarlo karoilo, not lan v'notal eschavos. The Gemara says, the other cases I understand, but in a creditor case, I will say this doesn't make any sense, right? Again, whoever heard of a case of a person giving a gift to his creditor, right, in addition to repayment? So in other words, you're telling me now that when he says, when the Shchimira says, give 200 just to my balchov, kero'ilo, as is befitting him, we interpret that to mean give him 200 zuz gift, and in addition, by the way, also go ahead and pay him back the debt. So the Gemara says, Mishum da'amar karoilo, not lan v'not les chavo, because the Shchimera said karoilo is befitting him. You're going to tell me that means that he's giving him a gift? Sure, take the 200 zuz as a gift and also take repayment. The Dilma karoilo b'chovo ka'amarle. They both say, you see, in this context, I would have thought that what does karoilo mean? Give my creditor 200 zuz. Karoilo means what, Rabbi say? As in accordance with the debt that I owe him. And by the way, that works fine, assuming what? That the debt is 200 zuz. Right? That we're supposed to remember again, in all the previous cases, so the amount of the gift surpasses the amount of the chov. Right? So again, in that case, the case of the ksuva, case of the bechar. But let's assume for a moment, just for the purposes of making this case a bit easier, that the amounts are the same. So the Gemara says, so I don't understand, why can't we interpret the statement of the Shchimera just simply to mean that he's saying, give my creditor 200 kiroilo. And kiroilo means, because this is the amount that I owe him. Rav Nachman. Thank you. Rav Nachman, Amar Lihuna, Hamani Rabbi Akivi. Oh, let's listen to this. It gets very exciting. So Nachman says, you're right. Whose opinion is being reflected here? We'll say it's none other than Rabbi Akiva. What does Rabbi Akiva say? Didayik lishna yisera. We'll say Rabbi Akiva ultimately holds that whenever there is, Rabbi Akiva holds that people do not make superfluous statements. And that whenever there is a superfluous or extra word, that's what Rabbi say, we infuse meaning into that. There's something additional to be understood. Where do we learn? Now, actually, this goes back to your point that you were saying before, that when he adds in that karo'ilo, see now, up until now, we were assuming karo'ilo doesn't really matter all that much. What mattered more in the previous two cases was biksuvasa or bibichuraso. Now, what Gemara is saying over here is the following. Shimon is on his deathbed. He goes ahead and he gives the gift to his, or I should say, he says, give 200 zuz to my creditor, karo'ilo. That means. So the Gemara is suggesting over here that what that means is that the creditor gets the 200 zuz plus he gets repayment for his debt. Why not? Why don't you just say karo'ilo just means give him 200 zuz as is befitting him because I owe him the money? To which the Gemara says because our Bryce over here is reflecting the view of Rabbi Akiva. And Rabbi Akiva says that whenever you use unnecessary words, we infuse meaning into those words. This none, because also we learn the following. Taking us back to our earlier Bava Basra days of property sales. Remember again, what's the halacha? When you sell a home, what's automatically not included in the sale of your home? The bar and the dus, the pit and the water system. Those are never included in the sale of property. Even though when I sell the property, I explicitly state that what? Remember this, I'm selling you the height and I'm selling you the depth, still bar and dus, pits and water cisterns are not included in the sale. So the Gemara says, if I sell Reuben my home, so that sale includes everything but the pit and the water cistern. So I own the bar and the dus. What's the problem? What don't I own? I will say I don't own a right of way. I don't own access. So I have to purchase back a right of way from Reuben the purchaser. Chacham say no. Say no. I will say since you retain the bar and the dus, therefore what? You automatically retain access as well. But Rabbi Akiva will agree with the following. Let's say I sell a home. I sell a home to Reuben. And I sell the home, and I explicitly say that what? I am not including the bar and the dus. So let's say even Rabbi Akiva will say that if I make that statement that I'm not including the bar and the dus, that I do not have to purchase a right of way, rather I've retained the right of way for myself. Now where does Rabbi Akiva ultimately get that, right? Where does Rabbi Akiva learn that from? So we'll say it's a very simple yisod. Because according to Rabbi Akiva, that phrase of chutz me'elu is an extra unnecessary phrase. Why is it unnecessary? Because Rabbi say it's standard in every real estate transaction that when you sell a home, you're not including the bar and the dus. You're not including the well and the water cistern. So Rabbi say, so because that's automatic, when you go ahead and you say it, you're obviously coming to go ahead and include something else. According to Rabbi Akiva, what are you coming to include? You're coming to say, and I'm also retaining for myself a right of way, access. Shabbos says, what do you see from here? Alma, kevan de lotzarach vekamar litafuye mil sakasi. Shabbos says, you see that the sheet of Rabbi Akiva is when a statement is unnecessary and you make it, you're clearly coming to include something else. So in the case of the bar and the dus, when I say, Reuben, I'm selling you my home, and I'm not selling you the bar and the dus, I didn't need to make that statement because the bar and the dus weren't included in the sale anyway. According to Rabbi Akiva, that extra statement means that ultimately I'm retaining a right of way for myself. Hachanami, so in our case over here, in our case over being the creditor, I give 200 zuz to my creditor, kira oilo, as is befitting him. Hachanami kivan delo tzarach vekamar. Therefore, say so too in our case over here, even though I did not need to say kara oilo, but I said it anyway. Litafuye mil sakasi. I'm clearly what I was saying. I'm clearly coming along ultimately again to include something additional, and therefore again we understand that the statement ultimately is being made to teach us that I'm giving 200 zuz to the creditor as a gift, in addition ultimately again to the debt that I owe him. So we'll say that becomes the shita of Rabbi Akiva. So the Gemara goes weiter. The Gemara says the following. Shchimira Shamar Mani Yeshli Eitzel Ploni. There's Shchimira who says, well, it's actually an interesting case. Shchimira says, Mana Yeshli Eitzel Ploni, which means Ploni owes me money. So Ruvain's on his deathbed and he says, Shimon owes me money. Right? So what do we do? Ha'idim Kosvin, Afa Pisha in Makir. But you have an interesting case over here. So Ruvain's on his deathbed, Shchimira, he says, Shimon owes me money. Actually, we'll just make it like this. Shchimira says, Ruvain owes me money. So we'll say, so the Eidim hear this. Now, do the Eidim know that this is a correct claim? No. We'll say, just because I say someone owes me money, doesn't mean someone owes me money. But the problem, of course, is what are the Eidim supposed to do with this claim? So the Gemara says, Eidim kosvin, afal pisha in makirim. The witnesses are supposed to say, you are there, have the right to write down the Shchimira's word in a document. And therefore, again, I will say, and therefore what happens? The heirs will take this document to Beis Din and try to collect. I will say, now what's the power of that shtar? What's the power of that shtar? Effectively nothing. It just records the last will and it just records the words of the Shchimira. Therefore, lefichach kishu gova tzarich lahavi raya d'Rebbe. Therefore, I will say that document essentially is meaningless. In other words, it's not meaningless in that it records the statement of the Shchimira, but by itself, that document does not give the Yarshim the power of collection. They are still going to have to go ahead and prove the veracity of their claim. The Chacham say, Ein kosvin ela imkein makirin. They both say, in general, the Chachamim say that what? That we do not write shtaros. Unless, of course, what? We know that the transaction happened. So I would say, so fundamental machlokes are, Chacham say, you do not write a shtar unless, of course, you absolutely know that the malvet lent the lovet the money. Therefore, therefore, we'll say when you have a shtar in your hand and you come to Beis Din and you produce that shtar, ein tzarich lahavi raya. We'll say a shtar stands on its own. A shtar stands on its own because we never write a shtar unless, of course, we know for a fact the veracity of the claim. We'll say, take a look at the Rashban for just a moment. That's actually the previous Rashi. So it's some fundamental machlokes. Rabbi Meir says that you could write down whatever you hear, even without knowing the veracity of the claim. Therefore, what? When you show up with that shtar based on Rabbi Osai, you have to write the shtar is correct. Chachamim say no. I'm sorry?
It doesn't do anything.
Well, what it does is it allows the platform for the conversation. It says that the Shchimira said before he dies. So now it gets the conversation going. The Chacham on the other hand say no. You do not write a shtar ultimately again without what? You do not write a shtar. You do not write a shtar ultimately without knowing the facts, without knowing that it's true, and therefore when a shtar is presented in Beis Din, that shtar stands on its own. Amr Rav Nachman, supposed to listen to this. Rav Nachman said, Amr li Huna. Huna said to me, Tana, we learned, Rabbi Meir Omer, in Kosvin. Rabbi Meir says that we do not write a shtar. V'chachamim omrim Kosvin. The Chacham say, we do write a shtar. I was saying, this is a steer to what we just said before. Rabbi Meir, Lo Amar, Ella Mishum Beis Din Toin. And I was saying, even Rabbi Meir ultimately again said, we are only concerned for a Beis Din who may make a mistake. Others will say, what does this mean? Take a look at the Rashban for just a moment. It's the second to last of the two intermediate lines. So min hadin hayela hodos l'divrei chachamim v'lomar kosvin mishum dein pinay l'shchimira l'tvo l'lova ela dechayiv Rabbi Meir leBeis Din toen she'sovran sha'idim lo kosvu ela imkeni kirus. Supposed to listen to this. Rabbi Meir is concerned about the following. Rabbi Meir, at the end of the day, would agree with the chachamim that there's no harm in writing down the words of the Shchimira. You just have to prove it in Beis Din that it's true. What is Rabbi Meir concerned about? Rabbi Meir is concerned for what we call a Beis Din Toin. Beis Din Toin is a Beis Din who may not be well versed in the halachas, which I will say is a problem on many different levels. But that Beis Din may see a shtar, and they'll assume that what? Oh, it's a shtar. If it's a shtar, then what Rabbi say? Then it's got to be good. Therefore, because we are concerned about a Beis Din Toin, Rabbi Meir will say, if you do not know that the facts are true, you may not commit it to writing. So the Gemara says, Amrav Dimi Min Arda, Hilchasa in Choshishin LeBeis Din Toin. So we'll say, Dimi Min Arda says the halacha is, we are not choshesh for a Beis Din ultimately again who makes mistakes. So we're not choshesh that Beis Din is going to make a mistake. So we'll say, so why is it different from Rava's statement? Dama Rava, Ein cholzin ela imkein matirin. So as a Rava holds, makirin, excuse me, that a Beis Din does not perform chalitza unless, of course, we know the parties. This is very important yisod. Let's say again, a man and woman show up in Beis Din, and the woman says, "I'm a widow. My husband passed away." Right? And the man shows up and says, "I am the surviving brother. There are no children. Let's just do chalitza. Let's get this done." So as a Beis Din does not do chalitza unless, of course, you have absolute certainty the identity of the parties involved. Ve'ein memanin ela imkein makirin. Similar again, what I will say, we do not do miyun, right? Miyun is the process where if a woman is married, or a girl is married off by her mother or her brother, it is a rabbinic kiddushin. She has the ability to void that kiddushin simply how? By refusing the marriage. We only do that if what? We only do that at the end of the day if the Beis Din knows the parties. Lefichach, kosven get chalitza, v'get miyun, v'afa pi she'ein makirin. So we'll say, therefore, we can go ahead and what? We could write a get chalitza and a get miyun, v'afa pi she'ein makirin. So we'll say, so look at the Rashbam. Therefore, the Rashbam says lefichach. It's like right in the middle of the wide lines. Kevan shein chotzin ela imkin makirin kosvin edim getcha chalitza umiyin lahatira afa pi shein makirin davadai Beis Din hikiru kishachotzvu umiyanu hilchach im kasvu laedim. So also listen to this. Therefore, we can write up a star. That miyun happened or that chalitza happened. If we know that happens, even if the edim signing on the shtar, what Ravo say, do not know the parties involved. Why? Because you know that Beis Din went ahead and went through the due diligence, went through the process, ultimately of ascertaining the identities of these individuals. So the Gemara says, "My taima lav mishum dechoshishin leBeis Din toim." So we'll say, why is this? Take a look at the Rashbam. My taima ein cholzen ela imkin makirin lav mishum dechoshishin leBeis Din toim. Kideprecious shimata omer cholzen below makirin yitu Beis Din sheni lahasiya below badika. So we'll say, so why is it that ultimately again we make sure that the Beis Din knows the identities of the people doing the chalitza or the miyun? It's because we're concerned that what's going to happen, Rabbi say, that we're choshish for a Beis Din towing. That if what happens, these people show up with a document that says that what? That they did miyun, they did chalitza. Beis Din is not going to bother to investigate, rather they're going to assume that since there's a shtar, ultimately again, that chalitza or miyun must have occurred. She's sovereign. I'm reading, finishing the Rashbam. Lo chaltzu el imkeni kiru shetoin ba'alachazu. So the Gemara says, "Ula el nami nechush leBeis Din toin." To which the Gemara says, "Here's the distinction of both sides." So Beis Din Basra, Beis Din Basra, Beis Dina lo daiki. I will say you're right. One Beis Din after another Beis Din does not investigate. I will say, if a previous Beis Din gets a shtar that came from a first Beis Din number 2 gets a shtar that comes from Beis Din number 1. One thing is say, which is what? They are not going to do due diligence on that, which makes sense. Why? Because Masabos say we assume that when something was before a Beis Din, it was absolutely vetted. Therefore, there is no need. So therefore, again, enachinami, a woman shows up with a get, what we call a shtar chalitza or a get chalitza. She shows up in a second Beis Din and she has that document. Does Beis Din number 2 have the obligation to ascertain who she was, the circumstances of her chalitza? She has the obligation to do that? Does Beis Din have the obligation to do that? Absolutely not. Rather, when she shows up in the Beis Din with the shtar chalitza, that second Beis Din has every right to assume that what? Beis Din was, chalitza was done kidasu kidin. There is no obligation upon a second Beis Din to investigate the actions of the first Beis Din. I will say that this is all assuming that the first Beis Din is a credible one. If there's no credibility for the first Beis Din, then Beis Din number 2 has to do due diligence. But assuming Beis Din number 1 is a credible one, there is no obligation upon a second Beis Din to investigate the matters of the first Beis Din. However, Beis Dina Basar Edim Daiki. But Rabbi say inachinami. When Beis Din comes after Edim, then Beis Din certainly has to do their due diligence. So what does this mean for us? So going all the way back, when the Shechinira is on his deathbed, and the Shechinira says, that's what? I lent Reuben $1,000. So what did the Edim do with this information? What's their job? Their job is to commit it to writing, right? Their job is to preserve the record. But they're almost like operating in the capacity of like this court stenographer, right? They're recording. They're the recording secretary. I'm just writing down what I hear. When that shtar comes before Beis Din, Rabosai, what's Beis Din's obligation with that shtar? What's their obligation? Investigation. because Rabbosai, it's clear in this capacity, even though the witnesses are writing down what the Shechid Meirah said, and even though they're signing on what the Shechid Meirah said, they can't attest to the veracity of that claim because they have no prior knowledge regarding that claim. Therefore, what Rabbosai, therefore, all they could do is submit it to writing, sign on it. When that shtar comes before Beis Din has the absolute obligation to then vet the claim. Rabbosai, the truth is, it's not going to be Beis Din who has the obligation, of course. It's going to be the Yarshim. The Yarshim are going to be the ones ultimately who bring that shtar to Beis Din, and then it's going to be Beis Din's obligation to go ahead and vet the claim. So what comes out over here is Beis Din achar Beis Din was something that was already adjudicated by a Beis Din, a credible Beis Din. A second Beis Din has no obligation of further due diligence. But when something was only recorded by a din, but there was absolutely no fact checking that went on, then when that comes to Beis Din will absolutely have the obligation to go ahead and check the facts and ultimately again investigate the claim. But we'll have to stop over here. I'm going to record the parsha thought after davening in Meretz Hashem. We'll post it. We'll pick up over here in the Mishnah Meretz Hashem tomorrow.